There he is. Oh,
Good morning, good evening.
Selectman Anderson, did you hear us talking about you?
All good, I hope.
Yes,
Amazing.
of course. I said, I think you now wait for the formal introduction.
I do.
All right. Well deserved. All right. So now that Selectman Anderson has been formally introduced, it's time for us to get going with our June 3rd, 2025 Select Board meeting. In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, the Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025, 6:30 p.m. public meeting of the Select Board shall be conducted remotely. The public is invited to join via Zoom. And as a preliminary matter, this is Select Board Chair Chris Gallo. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Selectman Jim Anderson.
Anderson has arrived.
Selectman Bill Harrington.
Harrington here.
Selectwoman Michelle Rouse.
Rouse here.
Selectman Roy Lamothe.
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Town Manager Mike King.
Present.
I know that Assistant Town Manager is not with us tonight, prior commitment. We wish him well. And Executive Assistant Amanda Vazzapolo.
Present.
Excellent. Well, I also know we're very blessed to have a bunch of very important people here this evening. We have members of our school committee building committee. We have members of our some of our other boards. So I welcome everyone to the meeting, and I promise you that we're going to try to move in such a pace that gets through everything, but at the same time covers everything as effectively and efficiently as possible. And we are going to start, as always, with Selectman Harrington and the announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Announcements for this evening. Please be advised that MassDOT will be doing repairs to the bridge on Route 1A South Street at 495 in Wrentham. Work is scheduled to begin May 27th and finish on June 5th and will be conducted at night from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Police details will be in place and one lane of traffic will be maintained at all times. Drivers who are traveling through the affected area should expect delays. All work is weather dependent. Wrentham Community Electricity will launch in July 2025. The program is a municipal aggregation, a model already offered by more than 200 cities and towns in Massachusetts. An information session will be held in person and virtually on June 11th at the Fisk Public Library starting at 7 p.m. Wrentham Veterans Luncheon will be held on Thursday, June 26th at 12 p.m. at the Senior Center. Veterans Agent Scott Smith will be in attendance to welcome you and answer any questions you may have. RSVP by Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. Email lplimpton@wrentham.gov or call 508-384-5425. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harrington. At this time, let's go to tab number 2, and we'll approve the minutes. We have documentation of the May 20th, 2025 open session meeting minutes. At this time, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the May 20, 2025 open session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Motion made by Selectman Harrington, second by
Second.
I think Selectman Lamothe. Any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse.
Rouse, yes.
Selectman Anderson.
Anderson's a yes.
Selectman Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
Selectman Lamothe.
Labath, yes.
Chris Gallo, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to get right into the update on the school building project, and just let me tee this off by just saying that we clearly there's a building project going on with the school. That's one of a couple of building projects we have. We have a DPW building project also progressing. One of our own, Selectwoman Rouse, is I think the vice chair of the school committee building school building project, if I'm not mistaken. I believe we have Phil Jordan, who's the chair of the committee, on with us as well, and we have, I think, members from Vertex, the OPM team, that's on. So we asked we reached out proactively. The select board, as you know, is pretty active in our town. We like to be, just updated. Our voters, our supporters, our voters, our resident taxpayers expect us to kind of stay up to speed, with many of the items going on in town, especially when there's a potential huge outlay of capital with a project of this magnitude. We know there's been a ton of work and effort already gone into this, to get us to where we're at tonight. So we wanted to take a few minutes, invite the committee on, see, kind of where you're at, and just ask some questions. I know there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of chatter amongst the community regarding this project. So at this time, I'm going to turn, who's going to be taking the lead with the presentation?
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy. This is Phil Jordan. I'd be happy to do an overview and then turn it over to Vertex for a presentation. And I think Emily from Vertex has a deck to share, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Go right ahead, Mr. Jordan.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the committee. I'm sorry that I don't have my camera on. I'm in transit right now in Washington, D.C. And just did also want to note to thank you for the approval of the warrant items for the school last night. We always appreciate your support. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there myself, but very much appreciate how supportive this board is of the schools. We're very excited about this school building project. I'm joined tonight by several members of the project management team. As mentioned by the chairman, the committee has been hard at work over the last year since the town approved the feasibility study funding to make lots of decisions about how to proceed and how to bring options to the community for feedback. We are available anytime the select board has questions, either in formal meetings or for separate conversations, and happy to come talk and present as often as you'd like us to. We're sort of living and breathing the work. So our primary considerations, of course, for the school, and as the committee has been sort of pondering the different options, is really to weigh a number of different factors that have been brought to us by the community and by the experts on the team. So obviously, we're very cost conscious. We want to make sure that we're making decisions that are maximizing the bang for the buck, so to speak, of the project. We also want to make sure that we're providing a safe and effective learning environment that's up to modern standards for our community. We want to make sure that we have a facility that is something that the entire community can use. And we want to minimize any disruptions, whether those be to traffic patterns, to ball fields, to septic sites, to the library, to parking, and everything in between. So we've been meeting with lots of the different departments, and we've had 2 community forums where we've received feedback directly from constituents in addition to our regular meetings. So we're now at the stage where we're able to provide some a little bit more detail on some of the potential site options and some of the very early sort of building design options. We can talk about some of the requirements of the Massachusetts School Building Authority that's providing, up to half of the funding for this project. Also happy to, answer any other specific questions that you might have about the project. I will just reference again, as you know, this committee is made up by a number of folks from the community. So you already mentioned Vice Chair Michelle Rouse on the committee. There's also additional members from school committee, from the schools themselves in terms of staff. Mike King is on the committee with us, as well as some folks from the community at large. So very excited to have a great group of people with different perspectives. But maybe at this point, it would be good to get right into the details of the work. And I'll ask the Vertex and TSKP teams to walk us through some of those initial considerations and results so far, and also make sure that we touch on timeline a bit, and then we'll be available, obviously, for any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan, for that intro.
Thanks, Bill. So I'm Emily Sarazin. I'm from Vertex. We're the OPM for the project. I also have Jeff D'Amico here with me. So can you guys see the screen?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right, so the school building committee, ourselves, as well as TSKP are all working together on this project. Our agenda for tonight is welcome and introductions, the ed plan highlights, the progress update for the MSBA process, preliminary design options, market conditions, the cost estimates, and next steps. And then we'll get right into the Q&A portion. So why now? The existing elementary facility needs a lot of repair. A lot of the systems are past their useful life, including HVAC, building envelope, electrical security technology. The space in the school is undersized. It has inefficient adjacencies. And the MSBA will provide a significant portion of the funding for the project. It's also important to note that funding is required with or without this MSBA project moving forward. So just quickly, I'll touch on the educational visioning process we did. So we wanted to engage teachers, special subject teachers, mental health team members, nurses, admin, students, elected officials, and different leaders within the town. And the purpose of doing this was to identify the teaching philosophy and determine the true goals of the project. So this is just some visuals about how this process went forward. So the result and overarching visioning priorities was to have a student-centered, multi-tiered system of support. They want to foster collaboration, have a purposeful use of furniture and space to facilitate academic learning, and have a future-ready, attractive, functional, and secure building. This is just a quick glimpse of the educational plan that was submitted to the MSBA in the PDP process and will be finalized in the PSR. So the MSBA has various steps that we go through. We have completed the preliminary design program, and what happens during that is casting a wide net to determine all of the potential design options. We then move into the preferred schematic report, which is where we are right now. And the purpose of this phase is to narrow down to the preferred solution. Then we move into the schematic design report, which takes the design through about 30% complete. So here's a quick timeline showing those phases I just talked about. So PDP we submitted in May. Now we're in the preferred schematic report, which we're looking to submit at the end of August. And we then move into the schematic design report. And you can see these yellow stars that pop up as we move across. This is our community forums, which we use to keep everybody engaged. And it's also important to note that the SBC and school committee are navigating parallel paths throughout this process.
Emily, if you don't mind, just also jump in that we had talked about potentially coming back to you in August with an update before we submit that final schematic design. So we're hoping to join one of your meetings again if you can fit us into the agenda, and we'll be happy to give you an update then in a couple of months.
Always, we always make time.
Just another note on that parallel process, with the school committee, they're looking at the 2 grade enrollments. So it's keeping the existing grade enrollment configuration of 3 grades or the potential of bringing a grade over from Delaney. So that will, as you'll see in a few moments, really makes a difference in the size of the building, cost of the project ultimately, but solves a lot of problems as well. And those are some of the debates that the building committee will have over the coming months.
All right, with that, I'll hand it over to Jesse to talk about some.
Thank you, Emily, and good evening, everyone. We started looking at potential sites all around Wrentham, but really didn't find anything suitable, and the study is focused on the existing school site shown here, which has the advantage of being centrally located in town and part of your existing municipal campus. Next slide. We've identified a number of constraints that limit buildable area. Wetlands occur to the east and north of the Roderick building. Septic leaching fields, which serve a number of town buildings, occur to the west of the existing school. And there's steep slopes, particularly to the south of the parcel, where they rise up to the top of Nookup Hill. The best locations for the building on this site are represented in this heat map shown here, which avoids all of those constraints. Next slide. We developed a number of options to thoroughly explore the site's potential. There are 3 types of options on this list on the left. The first is a renovation of the existing building. This option addresses infrastructural and code compliance needs of the existing facility, but does not address the lack of space. The building's really too small for your current enrollment and will be too small going forward with increasing enrollment. The second type is a renovation with an addition. The addition enlarges the existing school to bring it up to current standards and provide that needed space. We can make the addition large enough to support either a grade 4 to 6 school, which is the current enrollment, or the larger grade 3 to 6 school, which Jeff just mentioned, bringing grade 3 from Delaney over to Roderick. And the third type of option showed here is a new building, which could be located in any of 4 locations, and in each location could be either grade configuration. As you can see, we began by intentionally canvassing the buildable area with options, and these are the options we presented to the community back in March 19th. Next slide. But as we discussed the initial options with the school building committee and with input from town officials, we realized that 3 of the new building sites that we had picked are less desirable. All these 3 locate the new building deeper into Sweat Field, which creates challenges for access and a weakened sense of shared municipal campus. Next slide, please. So these are the 3 sites that we moved away from. The McMorrow site is the smallest site, and we were able to just fit a new building behind the library in this location. We couldn't achieve a couple things we were targeting, such as optimal solar orientation for the classrooms. The Pisani site tucks a new building into the slopes at the edge of the field behind the library, but building into the slope comes with added cost. And then finally, we looked at a Sweat site option, which was kind of in the center of all the athletic fields and which impacts all the athletic fields, which is really unnecessary. We didn't need to impact all the fields for a school. It's unnecessarily large. Next slide, please. Instead of carrying forward those 3 options, we explored new sites at the combination of the McMorrow Field and the Gilpatrick Field. So today I'll present 2 new options at the McMorrow and Gilpatrick Field in addition to the previously presented options. But before I do, it's worth noting that the site diagrams show the site diagrams I'm presenting tonight are all of the larger grade 3 to 6 configuration. We know that if the larger configuration fits, the smaller configuration will fit as well. We see some benefits to the larger enrollment, that grade 3 to 6 enrollment. By relocating students from Delaney to Roderick, traffic congestion at the entrance to Delaney School, which you currently are experiencing, will be alleviated. Also, the old and inefficient Vogel building can be demolished when you take grade 3 and move it to Roderick. Next slide, please. The renovation addition expands the Roderick building to the south with a 2-story addition. The main entrance of the school moves to the west side facing Randall Road, where it collects all vehicular parking and can be safely monitored from administrative offices also relocated to the west side of the building. The main entrance opens to a core lobby, which is accessed from east and west, creating a singular entry point for students arriving by car or by bus. With public vehicles now removed from the bus loop, pedestrian safety between the 2 schools is improved. The playgrounds, which need to be relocated for the addition, are now to the west side of the building, to the bus loop side, and away from public vehicular circulation. Construction phasing is an important consideration in any renovation option. In this case, the addition is large enough that it could serve as swing space, allowing the construction to proceed in phases while the school remains in operation. We like that this option features the new gymnasium prominently near the main entrance, where it will be visible and accessible to the community. Also in this location, it has direct access and views to Sweat Field, encouraging physical education classes to use the field in good weather. Sweat Field remains unchanged in this option, and the school continues to share the field parking as it does right now. Next slide, please. The Gilpatrick option locates a new building directly to the south of the existing Roderick School on the site of the current playground and Gilpatrick Field. All traffic now accesses the school from Taunton Road, which decouples the school traffic and the parking from the library and the ball field and alleviates congestion at the intersection between Randall Road and South Street. In this option, as in all the new building options, the parking area is increased so that the school doesn't need to share the field parking. This option, as you will see, has a clear, as you will see in all the new building options, it has a clear singular main entrance which collects arrivals in either car or bus to a safe and manageable entry. Its proximity to the existing bus loop allows the bus loop to be shared between Roderick and Delaney as it currently operates. The playscapes are located away from roadways to the south of the building, where they're also visible to families using the fields when school is not in session. While the building has displaced an adult softball field, we see an opportunity to expand either Heckler or Pisani or both to allow adult softball to continue at Sweat. There's a space near the bus loop to create a play field which is dedicated for school use. We like the pedestrian-friendly feel of having the school's entrance plaza near to the library entrance. We also like the proximity of the school to Delaney. Next slide, please. The first of the options at the combined Gilpatrick and McMorrow site has a lot in common with the previous Gilpatrick option. Like Gilpatrick, the building is located directly to the south of the existing Roderick School, and all traffic now accesses the school from Taunton Road. Also, like Gilpatrick, the main entrance to the school is singular, safe, and clear, and it is close to the existing bus loop, which is shared with Delaney. It has a similar pedestrian-friendly feel of having the school's entrance plaza near to the library entrance, and its entrance is close to Delaney. It also has a dedicated play field. Because this option utilizes more site space than Gilpatrick, it offers some stronger relationships and adjacencies. The gymnasium is located adjacent to the main entrance, and also where it is visible to the community at the front of the school, it also has direct access to the play field. The T-ball field is relocated near to the field parking area for improved accessibility from parking. Also, the cafeteria has direct access to the playscapes. The playscapes are located away from roadways to the south of the building, where they're also visible to families using the fields when school is not in session. In this option, the classroom wings are arranged such that their corridor collaboration spaces at the center of each wing have views out to outdoor classrooms. We like the way this option proposes a building with a compact and centered interior organization while making visual and access connections to the outdoor natural resources of the site. Next slide, please. And this is the last option. It's our second option at the combined Gilpatrick-McMorrow site. The building is organized such that it forms three sides of an outdoor classroom. The outdoor classroom has a fourth side opening toward views of the wooded intermittent stream that runs on the east side of the site. To the north and south of the outdoor classroom are two-story wings, which contain the school's academic spaces, offering optimal solar orientation and views to the outdoor classroom. This option differs from the previous two in that the cars are approaching the school from Randall Road, similar to the way they approach the Roderick School now, and buses are coming from Taunton. An expanded parking lot to the south of the library creates space for cars dropping off at the school to form a queue without limiting access to the library parking. The building's main entrance opens to a pedestrian-friendly plaza in the same location as the other two new options. The cafeteria and gymnasium have direct access to playscapes and a dedicated play field for school use. The T-ball field is relocated to the northern end of the school grounds with improved access from the parking area created nearby. We like the way this option organizes the site spaces around the building, creating zones that are more public, such as the entry, partly public, such as the playscapes and playfield, and more school-focused, such as the outdoor classroom.
All right, so we just saw a bunch of the options and we have put together this list of criteria in order to help us evaluate the options. I won't read through these, but these are the criteria that we have. We can always add or take away anything as we progress through the process. This stoplight matrix is just our method of evaluating. So we have the criteria along the left, the options across the top. And you can see the dark green is the most advantageous option. So this graph shows the MSBA construction cost trends. There's over 200 projects represented on this graph. And we can see that the slope coming up to around 2020 was relatively gradual. But after that point, it becomes a lot steeper. So this dotted line here shows the MSBA construction cost average. So we can see our average project cost is right below the MSBA construction cost average. This is our range here represented in blue. It's a range because we haven't made a lot of the most important decisions regarding the project yet. So we just wanted to show the trends of where the costs were going. So some of the market conditions that are contributing to this are inflation, volatility, new energy code updates. So there's new requirements enacted in 2023 that basically require going to triple glaze instead of double glaze, which comes at a premium. There are tariffs as well as other inputs, including labor shortages, fuel and transportation costs, and supply chain disruptions. So all of these have fed into the overall increase in construction project costs. Jesse?
Sure. This slide shows a range of project costs for each of the options I presented, $101 million at the low and $150 million at the high. These costs include construction costs and soft costs. They are intended to be complete costs. These are not the cost to Wrentham. They are the overall cost and will be funded partly by the MSBA and partly by Wrentham. I believe Wrentham's nominal reimbursement rate is 48%. These were developed with input from multiple cost estimators, and they were reconciled within 5%. But I want to stress that we're at an early point, and we present ranges at this point because there are many decisions still to be made, as Emily just alluded to, that will affect the cost of the project. To determine these ranges, we simply estimated our best understanding of each project at this moment, and then reduced the estimate by an arbitrary 15% and increased it by 5% to create a range of about 20%. For each option, you'll actually see two ranges, A or B, and these represent the different enrollments. You can see that the smaller enrollment is coming in about $13 to $16 million less than the larger. Also, we see that the addition renovation option costs about the same as the new construction options. We see that the new construction options are very close in cost, and there is about a 7% differential between them, with Gilpatrick being the least expensive and Sweat being the most costly.
All right, so next steps, we talked about this a little bit before, but right now we're in the process of refining the design options. On July 23rd, we'll have our next community forum. On August 28th, we'll be submitting our preferred option to the MSBA. And then from August of 2025 to June of 2026, we'll continue developing that preferred option, holding more community forums and board presentations. And then in June of 2026, we'll do the town ballot and town meeting vote. And now we can take any questions.
All right. I think I'll just start off by saying, before I open it up to the board members, start off by saying I appreciate the update. There's clearly been a lot of work, time, and dedication that's gone into the project thus far. So I want to congratulate everyone on this committee for doing a lot of hard work. It's just very interesting. I do want to ask a question and then I will turn it over to the board members. The one thing, and like I said, there's a lot, I know we're still in the infancy stages here, and there's a lot of information that was, kind of presented to us, all great information. But I just want to talk through, if you can, this notion that the renovation option and the new construction option are essentially costing the same. I'm involved in another building project right now. I'm familiar with other building projects. I do real estate, a little bit of real estate investment development and lending for my job. So I'm just having trouble understanding that. Can you walk me through that?
So I can give you a quick answer and then ask Jesse to go into more detail on some of the more specifics. But the primary driver is that for the renovation project, we would have to find space for 2 years at least for students in swing space, and the rental cost for modular classroom space or other types of, we don't have anywhere else to put them. So the cost of those 2 years of temporary space is pretty shockingly expensive. But Jesse,
Yeah.
if you could give a little more detail if there's anything else.
Well, Phil, I think it's actually, that's a very good point. That's very interesting. I guess I'll follow it up before Jesse answers that. I'll say, I'm aware of other communities when they take on projects like this, they do the renovation. I'm sorry, they do the addition component first, and they keep the existing building kind of the way it is, right? And then they do the renovation component of the existing building once the addition is done. Like I know there's actually someone sent me an email today on a project that Millis is doing, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Vertex is the OPM. And if I'm not mistaken, Millis, it said something like they decided to go with the renovation option, and they said that the cost was 2/3 of the new construction. So I think in rough numbers, 122 million versus 160 million dollars. So I was hoping that maybe you could speak to that as well, because clearly they're taking that approach. And they're saying that they don't have to utilize the temporary classroom space or the modular space.
Chris, if I could jump in there.
Yeah, please.
While phasing is a consideration, actually we haven't included the cost of modulars and temporary construction, yes, but not modular classrooms. We've priced it out as if the students stay in the school. Now there are costs for phasing when students stay in the school because it extends the construction schedule and there's protection required, et cetera. But this is usually the least expensive way to do an ad reno project. And that's the way we looked at it to develop the numbers that are in front of you today. So I think that then you're still asking, your question comes back as to what is the reason that we're seeing the ad reno at about the same cost as the new construction? And I think the answer lies in the amount of addition that you need relative to the amount of square footage that you have existing that you're able to renovate. You have about a 56,000 square foot building, and we need to double it to get the building to be the right size for your grade 3 to 6 enrollment. So when we look at a breakdown of the cost estimates that are contributing to the ad reno, we see about 43% of the cost is going into those renovated areas, and 43% of the cost is going into the new areas. And we have about 14% of the cost going into site work, because we are reworking the site rather extensively, changing the entrance from one side to the other. That gives you some sense that while we do see a benefit of some of the building materials that we're retaining in the renovated areas, the structure is the primary one. We need to replace the systems. We need to replace the roofing and many key components to all the windows in those renovated areas. And on top of that, because we're building over a longer duration, you end up seeing a cost premium relative to the new constructions, which are completed more quickly, a premium in time, which is due to general conditions. So these are a number of the reasons why it's coming out equivalent to new construction in this case. Very often we find it to be less expensive. It depends what the scenario is and the breakdown of square footage, the amount of addition you need to make it work really makes a big difference in our experience.
No, that's very fair. Okay. That's my big question. I might have a couple more, but I'd like to open it up to the board members for thoughts, input. And again, I can't stress this enough. Thank you for all the hard work. We know that everyone's working hard, trying to do what's best for the kids, and we all appreciate that. So at this time, open up, starting with Selectwoman Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this point, since I've been involved, obviously, in this past year, I'm going to leave it to the other board members to ask their questions. Thank you, Jeff, Jesse, and Emily for being here tonight, and Phil, and presenting this information to my fellow board members.
Excellent. Selectman Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just a quick question. I noticed when on the committee, is there anyone from Recreation involved in this? If someone can answer that.
So yeah, so I'll take that one, Selectman Anderson. So there's no one involved from Recreation directly. So Mike King is involved on the committee. We have met, so we had the building committee had a joint meeting with the Recreation Committee it's a couple of months ago to talk about impacts to field space. And then I know that there have been several additional meetings. I know Mike has met, and I think Michelle has met with Jeff Plimpton, and Alan Cameron has spoken with him as well. And so we've been in pretty close contact with them about impacts to the fields, and also in discussing opportunities that would exist from the gymnasium that would be included in the project. So the room that's currently being used as the band room in the Roderick building is technically a gym, even though it's not big enough to really use for a gym. So that is included as a reimbursable cost. So it would allow for additional activities for rec to use as well for the gym. So we have been in close contact with the Recreation Department, and we continue to do so. I don't know, Mike or Michelle, if you have anything to add to that, or if you have any, but we did have a good discussion with them about impacts to this fields, and I think we, came to a good understanding. But I don't know if either of you have anything to add.
I can just add that we've also had 2 presentations to the town department heads directly. One fairly recently, which Recreation was there, represented by Jeff Plimpton for his input, as well as other affected departments such as library, public safety, as the project moves forward, to get the perspectives of all of our departments and department heads as the process goes along.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
There were some comments about the impacts of the fields, and also youth baseball came to that joint meeting and raised some questions and some concerns about impacted field space. It did seem to us like the preference of the rec department would be to have the impacted fields be relocated to Rice, as opposed to be included in maybe in the space where the existing Roderick building would be taken down. So that is something that we have certainly taken into consideration in the deliberations, and obviously no final decisions have been made yet, but that has been sort of the feedback that we've gotten from the Recreation Committee.
Okay, thanks, Phil. I appreciate it.
Would that, just a follow-up question, Phil, would that split the fields then for like the youth baseball? Because right now it's like one complex. Would that split the field? I mean, I know, listen, we're going to have to make some tough decisions. I'm just trying to, I'm going to make sure that I understand, what you guys are thinking and what's been.
Yeah, so our initial proposal, our initial sort of proposal was that we would either take the Well, that we would take one of the fields basically for the school building, either Gilpatrick or McMorrow, or Pisani. And then we would replace that field where the existing Roderick building is now. So it would sort of split it, but it would be walkable and there would be shared parking. I would say that received a somewhat lukewarm reception by the rec department, where their long-term vision was to include the two fields over at the Rice Complex, so that there would then be a complex of 4 fields together at the Rice Complex, which would be then a contiguous 4-field set. We would still have the 2 or 3 fields, depending on configurations, at the Roderick for use, but it would split from what we're used to now. But the understanding that I got from the rec department was that we would go from having 2 at Rice and 4 at the Sweat Field to the other way around, where it would be 4 at Rice and 2 at the Sweat Field at a minimum, which then also frees up some ideas for either additional field space or other space where the current Roderick building is. So I mean that was sort of the way that we were leaning based on the desires of the rec committee.
Understood. Thank you. Selectman Harrington.
Thanks, Chair. So I guess I'll direct this to Phil. So the cost involved in the impact to the playgrounds and the ball fields are going to be included in your school project. That'll be split up between the school loan and what we end up taking out of the 150 million per se.
So yeah, so that's a good question. So the initial idea in terms of the scoping was that we would basically, what's included is putting things back essentially to their original design, right? So if we were going to eliminate the field and then put it where the Roderick building was going to be and then relocate a playscape, that is included in the total cost. If we deviate from that plan to do sort of like the say move the 2 fields over to Rice, my understanding, and Jeff, please jump in here because you have a lot more experience with this in many other towns and everywhere else, is that moving the fields to another location altogether would not be considered an allowable cost as part of this project. So it would be a separate item, but we can sort of account for it in different, we can account for it ourselves sort of in different ways, but what we sort of submit to the MSBA as part of this project, it would need to be somewhat separate. So if we were to say, okay, what we'd like to do is we'd like to build on the parcel that takes up the McMorrow and Gilpatrick fields, and then we're going to demo the existing Roderick building, and we want to put a turf field in there, or some other, remediation of that site. We can include those types of things in the project because the deconstruction and rehabilitation of the site would be an allowable cost. It may not be reimbursable at our rate, depending on what we do, but it would be allowable right in the package. But the rice fields would then be a separate sort of component to this.
Yep.
The rec department did believe, just one last thing, and I'll turn to you, Jeff. The rec department did believe that it would be less expensive to move the fields to Rice than to have them where the existing Roderick site is now. I think in Vertex's experience, there's a lot of variables at play there, and we wouldn't necessarily want to bank on that. But Jeff, I'll turn it over to you for all that.
Yeah, that's all good context.
Discussion.
So, I mean, essentially the MSBA doesn't allow bundling, right? So the town's been invited to do a school project, and so they, toe a very tight line to make sure it doesn't get kind of pork barreled with other projects, right? So, but what they do allow is displacement costs. So if we are displacing a field, those direct and attributable costs are either replaced on site, or if they had to be replicated as a swing space, could be an allowable cost. So I think an example of that would be, developing the field, the infield, and maybe some backstops associated with it. But if, say, the park and recs wanted to do lights or irrigation or things that are kind of beyond that scope, that's where it starts to get beyond the scope of the individual project and more than just a displacement cost. And so there are fine lines, you know, paying for the engineering and surveys of those would be kind of outside of the scope of the school project. And so there is a fine line that we need to work through with the Park and Recs as to where they pick up the baton and where this project carries the non-reimbursable costs. So the MSBA has reimbursable for the building itself, and they have many caps, which we can go through another night in terms of where they cap the building cost, square footage, things that are eligible within the building itself, things that are eligible within the site. But the site work gets capped at about 10%. So after the time you've actually excavated for the building and done the work directly around the building, any field work in general ends up above the caps. So it kind of erodes the effective rate of that 48% reimbursement that you start to get. So, you know, the MSBA tries to put every town on equal footing with suburban and urban towns. So they spend more of the money on the building itself because that's the way, you know, cities like Lowell and Boston don't have the benefit that the town of Wrentham has in terms of fields. So more of the reimbursement goes to the building itself and a lot less goes to the site around it because they're trying to put all these cities and towns on equal footing.
Right, so when we present this, or when this gets presented, it needs to be presented with the additional costs for the replacement of baseball fields, the movement of the playgrounds. And does it include tearing down the other two buildings, the Vogel and the Roderick?
Yeah, so right now, all the costs that you've seen to date, you know, you've seen a large range. And as Jesse alluded to, it's because many of the important decisions have not been made. You know, what are the mechanical systems? Are they all electric? Are they geothermal? Are they traditional gas? You know, what is the building made out of? You know, are you going with a construction manager versus a general contractor? What are the sustainability goals of the town? These are all significant drivers in cost, which is why we have that 20% range. That work, some of it, the work that we're going to do over the next 3 months, really the building committee will get to the recommendation of where that building is going to go and how large it is. Between September and April of next year, you're going to fine tune all those other costs and come up with a final proposal that the state board will vote on in April and your taxpayers will vote on in June. And so that's when the totality of the cost is all kind of earmarked in there. The high range of everything you've seen tonight includes all the demo of both Vogel and the existing Roderick. It includes an earmark of about $1.5 million for potential field replacement. Still to be vetted out about whether that's the right number or not, as well as any other ancillary costs that we're aware of to date. And the committee is going to try and drill down on that first with that August submission, but then again with finality next spring with the number that goes back to town meeting.
Right, thank you. And then I mean, obviously there'll have to be impact studies regarding to traffic patterns on Randall Road and coming out at between the mobile station. Has been discussions with that, Mike, with public safety. Any other routes? Can they go through? Can they put a cut through to Taunton? I mean,
Emily, do we have that slide that we could pull up?
Go back to the options. So we are looking at both of those. So excellent questions, Bill, right? Because traffic is king, right? And I know in every town I've ever worked in, people always complain school traffic is a nightmare, but really it's a nightmare for 2 30-minute segments a day, right? And so that, you know, becomes challenging when you talk about things like traffic lights and meeting the warrants for traffic lights and things like that. But we've done an initial traffic memo at this point. Certainly, when the project moves forward, there'll be a full traffic study before any permitting documents are submitted. Permitting usually begins at the end of design development, so that would be kind of post the funding. But we have done a high level traffic study and do level of service about whether the road would connect to Taunton Road or Roderick. We have options for both. You can kind of click it both ways at this point. There are pros and cons associated with them, which the town here, you guys are very well aware of the challenges with Roderick itself. Obviously, if we traffic onto Taunton, we're adding more traffic over there. So that is an active part of the conversation that the building committee is going in. And because of where we've located the building kind of central to the site, if you will, there is an ability to connect either way. We also have to be careful if we make a full connection to avoid cut-through traffic. So those are all conversations that the building committee will undertake.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Selectman Lamothe.
When you look at all the considerations you've got, upwards of 20 of them, have you scored them in some way, shape, or form and yet? And are you leaning towards one versus another at this point, or is it too early?
So there was an initial, I'll let Phil comment too, but there was an initial whittling with the first preliminary design submission where we really looked at the sweat field, the Pisani. You were pushing too far back onto the site. Those were becoming uh, higher cost and you're losing more field space. So, because the options at the front of the site provided appropriate value, we didn't see the need to kind of continue those on. The committee voted to take those off the list, but to refocus additional options. And so those are the additional options you've seen tonight. Emily flashed up on the screen about 14 criteria that the committee has developed, and we presented those to the town department heads as well to collect their input and at the community forums. They'll use those as that kind of crib sheet, and so that what we call a traffic light matrix becomes a working tool for the then start to compare the relativeness of all these projects. That's going to happen over the next 4 building committee meetings, so that'll start the end of June into July before they come to a recommendation in August. So they're going to kind of work through that. We try and break it down by topics because it's a lot to digest. So we kind of look at the outside in, site circulation, fields, then we look at the inside of the building. Tonight you saw kind of the kind of high level view of the building. You may have a favorite on the options, but there's a reason why some of them are better on the inside, right? And so some of those options actually function a lot better on the inside than they look on the outside. And that's an important consideration when it comes to the, travel distance for students, accessibility, adjacencies, and things like that. So that's all part of the Rubik's Cube that the committee will go through this summer.
And the estimated cost of the demolitions is about what?
Yeah, I can give you that in a second.
And I can just let you know.
Demolition is about $500,000, including the abatement. Or no, the abatement's about 770,000, and the demolition's about 560,000. So it's about.
Is that for both buildings, Jeff?
No, Vogel is another 500. So all in, that's
$1,000,000.
1,000,000.
5.
Yeah, 1,000,008 in terms of the demo of both buildings and the abatement of both buildings.
Yeah.
And Select Board Member Lamont, just to answer your question also from the evaluation metrics. So we obviously came at the public forums with sort of the baseline considerations, which are student safety, modern effective learning environment, and cost as being the 3 things that, and safety would include the traffic patterns, of course, as being the 3 things that are sort of unmovable objects, right, that we have to consider. The one that really came up, so the 2 areas that really came up the most, first was obviously the impact to the ball fields and recreation space for both positives and negatives, right? Like splitting the baseball fields was definitely something that came up, as was, excitement around, gymnasium. Someone asked for a swimming pool. We thought we wouldn't be so ambitious as to build a pool, but if cost is no issue, why not? And then the other one that came up though quite a bit was this sort of keeping a campus feel in proximity. And some of us had an idea that maybe, well, what if rec really doesn't care about these fields? What if we just took the whole sweat and just built based on like no restrictions, just build wherever you can build? And it turned out that was a lot more expensive actually, because the further away we go, the more expensive it gets for utility lines and fire lanes. But also we got a lot of pushback about this feeling that it was too far away from the existing Delaney School, and that there's a really strong desire for that campus feel. So we will certainly be refining those metrics, and we'll be going back out to the community with the community forum to make sure that we're getting good input from the town on what matters most to folks.
Anything else, Selectman Lamont?
No, we're good. Thank you.
I'm going to propose that Mr. Jordan covers the liability insurance for the pool.
That's right.
For the town.
To be clear, that was Superintendent Alan Cameron's idea. And since he's at his kid's track banquet tonight, he can't refute that statement. So
there you go. So hey, I think that's a great place. I just want to ask one more question, and I appreciate the feedback. And obviously, please use our board as a resource. If you want anyone to kick the tires, that's not afraid to give you some tough love and criticism, constructive, obviously, please make sure to reach out to our board. Not that we're experts, but we are residents, we have kids, we're taxpayers, and we think we can be, I don't know, not me, but the other board members add a lot of value. So I'll ask this final question. So you mentioned the school size presently is 56,000. Is that an accurate square footage number on our existing school?
Yes.
Okay. And the new school is essentially going to be double in size. Can you walk me through, again, just trying to ask the questions here. Why do we need double the size of a school? If I understand there's a thought process of like maybe taking on a grade and moving it from one school to the other. But if I'm not mistaken, I know we have enrollment. I know everyone wants to live in Wrentham, but it seems to me like our class sizes are pretty small. I think we average about 21 kids a class. So why the need to double the size of the building? Because obviously the bigger the building, the bigger the addition, the
Yeah.
bigger the price tag, right? So I'm just trying to understand that perspective.
Yeah. So Jesse, why don't you field that one?
Sure.
Or
It's
Jeff?
a great question. I can
Jeff,
understand where
you
you're
can
coming
start.
from.
I'll chip in. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, you could finish. I'll share my initial thoughts. Doubling the building, the biggest square footage driver is the addition of the third grade. So that increases the number of students in the building, more classrooms, et cetera. You also do experience, we're working with enrollment projections, which look forward in time and include some growth in the community and some additional students. So even in your grade 4 to 6 enrollment in our study, there are more students than you have in the school right now. There is just some growth anticipated for Wrentham over the next 10 years. So bear that in mind. Another big feature that's missing in the existing building is a gymnasium. So there's a lot of square footage right there, about 6,000 square feet in the MSBA guideline to add a gymnasium to your school. And there are some other programs in your current school which are lacking the space they need. These are all smaller and somewhat tedious to go through and identify them all here. But the educational plan is to provide sufficient square footage for the educational delivery that you're doing now, and also thinking forward to where your educational delivery should really be. So there's square footage required to get to that goal.
Bless you.
Yeah, Jeff, you about said everything I would have added. I mean, it's about those projections and growth, and the gymnasium, although feels large from a square footage standpoint, is a volumetric kind of thing. So it's not like the intensity of a science lab or things like that. But from a volume standpoint, you don't have an existing gym or cafeteria that meets the needs of the current population. And so those are two big spaces that would be added, part of the real driver in square footage.
Understood. And that means then the Delaney School, which is currently what, K to 3, that would then go to K to 2?
Yeah, pre-K to 3 would go to K to 2.
Got it.
And that is definitely a big decision to make about configuration. That's a big driver of cost. Based on some of the enrollment projections, I think what we're sort of hoping for is one is we really don't have any additional space at Delaney. We're pretty constrained there. And so when we look at the cost of, say $15 million or so to add the additional space, I think I got the numbers right, roughly. That is certainly a lot less than having to build, a large addition at a later date onto Delaney if we need it. It also provides a little bit more flexibility. And I don't know, I can't use these kinds of terms, like the Vertex people get mad at me if I say things like extend the longevity of the Delaney School, because it doesn't really actually make the roof last longer. But it is something that we're sort of thinking about as being, potentially in the long run a cost saver. But that's definitely very much a question that has not been decided. It's something that the town really needs to weigh in on.
Understood. Like I said, I think this has been just a very good presentation, and very good from my perspective, bringing this board up to speed. So I don't want to take any more of your time up unless the board members have any additional questions, but I just want to thank you for coming and joining us. And we're here if you need us, and we look forward to having you come back in August. Board members, do we have any other questions before I let them go? No? All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, everybody from Vertex. We appreciate it. Appreciate your
Thank you,
time.
Mr. Chairman. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, great presentation. Lots to think about. All right, moving on. I know we have a bunch of things left, and I apologize that took a little longer than I anticipated. We're going to go to tab number 4, and I believe I saw with us we have Jim Lawrence. This is an interview and appointment of Jim Lawrence to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have documentation in our packet, a recommendation letter from none other than Bill Gaspara, who we heard from last night at town meeting. Volunteer application from Jim Lawrence himself. I read the information. I read the letter. I'm pretty familiar with Mr. Lawrence and his stay on the planning board. Very impressive resume, willingness to get back involved in the community. So I don't have a lot of questions. I'll open it up to select board member Michelle Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Jim. Welcome. Nice to see you again. I just think for other people listening, residents, if you could just give us a little summary of your background and your interest in being on the zoning appeals.
Sure. So I guess, traveling backwards in time, I just finished a 10-year stint on the town planning board. I moved into Wrentham in 2002. Took me about 10, 12 years to realize that I, really wanted to get back to the town in some way. So I came to a meeting exactly like this and was appointed to the planning board. And 10 years later, I finally, completed that stint. For 4 people ran, and I was one of them and did not get reelected. My entire professional career was in residential real estate, pretty much many different aspects of it. Being a mortgage lender, being a real estate agent and a real estate office manager, and working for disaster remediation companies and a number of other things. So, and I owned 2 different properties in town, lived here for 23 years. And, I think those are the highlights of what you need to know. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that. No further questions.
You know what I should have done too, and I apologize. I'm going to do this now. Mr. Gaspara, do you want to offer any comments before I reopen it back up to our board members? Welcome. Good to see you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At our May 14th board meeting, we interviewed Mr. Lawrence. We're very fortunate to have a candidate of his quality because we have someone who served 10 years on the planning board, and he knows the zoning bylaws. So it's unusual to have somebody that can make that transition very smoothly and wants to continue serving the community in a capacity working on a board. So the board voted unanimously to recommend him to your board for appointment as an alternate member of our board. So he's in front of you now to make that interview him. So we feel fortunate to have that type of quality person with a smooth transition. So
Thank you for that clarity, Mr. Chair. I'll open it back up to Selectman Anderson. Any questions for the candidate?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I think Jim's credentials and accomplishments in the community speak for themselves. So I don't have any questions.
Great. Selectman Harrington.
Big thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Selectman Anderson. He did a wonderful job on the planning board, and I think he'll make a great addition. I appreciate him volunteering his time to the town.
Great. Selectman Lamothe.
Great experience. Love to have him back. No questions.
Excellent. I concur. So at this time, Chair would entertain a motion to appoint Jim Lawrence to the Zoning Board of Appeals as an associate member for a term effective immediately and expiring June 30th, 2028.
So moved.
Motion made by Selectman Anderson, second by Selectwoman Rouse. Any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hamilton. Harrington.
Yes.
Lamothe, yes.
Anderson, I got you right. Yes.
Yes.
Gallo, yes. Motion carries 5-0. You know the drill, Jim. Go get sworn in and welcome to the zoning board.
Thank you very much.
Have a
Thank
great.
you.
Congrats.
Welcome, Jim.
You're welcome.
All right, tab number 5. We have another interview and appointment of, it's Sonia. Is it Sonia Shea? Sonia?
Sonia Shy.
I screwed that one up. Sonia Shy. Well, Sonia Shy, welcome to our meeting. It's so great to have you. We have an interview and appointment for you this evening for the Cultural Council. We have a volunteer application in our packet. We have an email from Karen Becker, the chairwoman of the Cultural Council. I looked at the application. Impressive resume. Been a member in the town, for 10 years. I want to open it up to the board members to see if they have any questions for you. But welcome, and we'll start with Selectwoman Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sonia, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to see that you're interested in this. I will ask you, again, to be on the application. Tell us a little bit why you're interested in being on the Cultural Council.
Sure. I originally grew up in Boston, and I've lived in Rhode Island, near Providence. So I've always had great access to cultural events, arts, museum, dance, music, and I really think it's a important part of the community. It really enriches the community and grows the economy and fosters creativity. And I really think local cultural councils are really important part of that. I have a graduating senior at KP right now, so we'll be going
Congrats.
to the thank you, this weekend, and she's off to UMass Amherst. And actually, she's combining her degree in art and environmental science to be a landscape architecture. So really excited about that. So I'm just hoping to contribute to the community and volunteer where I can.
Great, thank you. No further questions.
All right, thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Selectman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I think Sonia's application looks good to me, and I appreciate the fact that she's willing to serve. So no further questions.
Fantastic. Selectman Harrington.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, great resume, explanation of your experience, and look forward to having you on the committee, and we appreciate you volunteering your time. Thank you.
Selectman Lamothe.
Same here. Love the fact that people are volunteering and they have some experience and desire. Thank you.
Sounds great. Okay, tough crew, Sonia, huh? At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to appoint Sonia Shy to the Cultural Council for a term effective immediately and expiring June 30th, 2028.
So moved.
Motion made by Selectwoman Rouse, second by Selectman Lamont. Any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse.
Yes.
Selectman Anderson.
Yes.
Selectman Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
Selectman Lamothe.
Moth, yes.
Chris Gallo, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Please go see the town clerk for swearing in and ethics information. And welcome.
Great. Thank you so much.
Have
Welcome.
a great night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, let's go to tab number 6. Tab number 6, we have a resignation with regrets acceptance of Mary Hepburn from the Open Space Committee. We have a resignation letter in our packet. We haven't been reading the other letters into the record, Mike. We don't need to read this into the record, do we?
I would say most often you have, but that would be at the discretion of the board if you wanted to read it into the record.
I meant this evening, like the letters of recommendation. This is a letter of resignation, so that's different, correct?
Usually the board does read the letter of resignation as publicly.
That's what I meant. Sorry, I didn't say it right. So you're on, Selectman Harrington.
Thanks, Chair. The letter's addressed to Alan Selling, Town of Wrentham Open Space Committee, Wrentham Town Hall, 79 South Street, Wrentham, Mass. Re-resignation. Dear Alan, I've been informed by Ann Fisk, our town clerk, that per Board of Registrars and Elections Commission of the Commonwealth of Mass, Part 1, Title 8, Chapter 51, Section 25. A person directly appointed by the Select Board as a registrar cannot hold another appointed office. It is with much thought and hard decision that I am sending you this letter of resignation effective immediately. This also means I am unable to fill my service on the Community Preservation Committee and will inform Robin Cuddy with a resignation letter also, copying you. I will, however, follow through with our May 20th invasive plants presentation by the Rhode Island Audubon Society at the Fisk Library. Should I cease to be a member of the Board of Registrars for Wrentham and there is an opening for open space, I will apply. Thoroughly enjoyed being involved with this committee. Got a great group, concerned members. Looking forward to seeing around town and at town meeting. Sincerely, Mary Hepburn.
Excellent. Thank you for reading that into the record, Selectman Harrington. At this time, Chair would entertain a motion to accept with regrets the resignation of Mary Hepburn from the Open Space Committee.
So moved.
Motion made by Selectman Harrington, second by Selectwoman Rouse. Any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse.
With regrets, yes.
Anderson.
With regrets, yes.
Harrington.
Harrington, yes.
Lamoth.
Lamoth, yes.
Gallo with regrets, yes. Motion carries 5-0.
So, Mr. Chair, one quick question. Do we also need to have her resignation from CPC voted on, or is that just part of this also?
I'll put that over to Mike King.
So her role on the CPC is derived from her position on open space. So if she's not on open space, she can't be the open space rep on CPC,
Excellent, thank
which
you.
she alluded to in the resignation.
Okay, just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Good question. Better safe than sorry, right? Next tab, let's go to tab 7. Okay. Tab 7, we had a meeting last night, town meeting last night, and we had 2 home rule petitions. We had the we had 3 actually, Article 15, Article 26, and Article 27. Now we have to move them, correct, Mike?
So the home rule petitions authorize the select board to transmit them to the legislature.
Yeah.
To be filed by the town's legislative delegation. So you have there was 3 citizens home rule petitions on the warrant. 2 were passed and 1 was indefinitely postponed. So the 2 that you have before you would be moving forward to authorize and sign off on them to be put forward to the legislature.
To be clear, it's Article 15 and Article 27. Article 15 was an act to authorize the Wrentham Select Board to remove the positions of lieutenant of the town of Wrentham Police Department from the requirements of MGL 31. And then 26 was not moved forward by the petitioner on the floor. So 27 is the other one that we would be moving to legislative tonight, which is an act authorizing the town of Wrentham to exempt from taxation certain real estate owned and occupied by surviving spouse, Deputy Chief Labonte. So I guess what I'm looking for is at this time, do we have to vote them separately, Mike?
You can vote the together the home rule petitions that were approved at last evening's
Okay, so
town
this
meeting.
time the chair would entertain a motion to vote and sign the 2 home rule petitions that were favorably voted on, which was Article 15 and Article 27.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So moved.
Motion made by Selectman Harrington, second by Selectman Anderson. Any further discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. Selectwoman Rouse,
Yes.
Selectman Anderson,
Anderson's a yes.
Selectman Harrington,
Harrington, yes.
Selectman Lamoth,
Lamoth, yes.
Gallo, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Let's go to tab number 8, discussion of select board policy on 1-day alcohol licenses. Okay, so this is just a preliminary discussion. No vote is needed tonight. This derives from the fact that our last meeting, or one of our last meetings, they all blur together at this point. White Barn Farm came on with one of the breweries. They requested a bunch of 1-day licenses. One of us asked the question, how many licenses do they get in a year? We were told 12. They were at either 11 or 12, and they still have, you know, a few months left in the year, including October, which they do an Oktoberfest, which had me ask Mike and Amanda, who controls the number of one-day licenses that an applicant can ask for. That is in fact this board. So the conversation is currently it's at 12, right? What does the board, you know, does the board want to make any changes? I'd be okay with increasing that amount to a number like, you know, I don't know, 8, you know, 6 more, maybe 18, and then saying after that they got to come back and ask us again. But I want to open it up. I don't think 12 is the magic number, but I don't know that 36 or 100 is the magic number either. So this is more of just a quick discussion to get the temperature of the board, starting with Selectwoman Rouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have we had any circumstances that have gone before above 12? No.
Nope. But what are they on, Mike? They're on 11 or 12?
They are at 12 as of the ones that were approved at the last meeting. I will add that the state illegally allows up to 30. So that would be the ceiling for the board if they so chose.
And they did make comment that they would submit under a different company that they own as well.
Can't do that. So let me finish with Selectwoman Rouse, and then I'll go down the list, Roy, if that's okay.
Sure.
So Selectwoman Rouse, what were you gonna say?
So we would be looking at creating a number, and that would be for any group, right? So if we agree on 15, it would be 15 for a year, applicable to any organization that would be looking for the liquor licenses.
Yep.
Okay. No further questions right now.
Okay. Selectman Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So if I recall correctly, the reason why the board back in the day put a limit on it was because establishments were trying to avoid getting the liquor license through the state, and also on their insurance company. Personally, it doesn't bother me at all. But maybe Mike or Amanda could answer this. What's the difference in cost if they do it one day at a time, if they buy the year-long license?
And is it just a cost thing, to his point? You know, like, are they able to? Would they qualify for a permanent license?
Are you asking me?
No, sorry. I was adding. I was taking your question and adding another question onto it.
Okay.
Sorry, Jim.
It's okay.
So the cost for a special one-day liquor license is $50 plus $5 because there's a 10% admin fee. The cost for a wine and malt license is, I want to say $950, but I want to make sure that's right. Loading.
So it's 650 times.
So it would be $1,300 for a wine and malt restaurant license, which is what White Barn Farm would have to get. There are some zoning questions that come into play with that.
I also think, if I'm not mistaken, Mike and Amanda, the one-day licenses, like, you know, they get around things like plumbing by like having a porta potty and other stuff. Whereas if it was a permanent license, they would need more permanent fixtures, if I'm not mistaken. Is that accurate, or?
I believe that's correct. There's also certain fire safety inspections that they would be required to get. A lot of that's around like egress because of like the Station 1 fires.
Right.
I mean, it's in an outdoor field, so it's all egress, but.
Yeah, I'm just doing some quick math. 55 times 12 is 660. 55 times 18, let's say, is 990. So I don't know if that helps you, Selectman Anderson.
And again, like I don't have a dog in this race. I'm just throwing it out there that I think that's why they limited the amount previous boards did rather than just opening up to, you know, more than 10 or 12 or whatever. That's all I'm saying. I'm just
No,
trying to give you a little historical background.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's good. It's good. Selectman Lamoth.
I think we still want to be in control of this, so, rounding it up to 18 and avoiding going to 30, could make sense to me, but opening it up to 30 kind of is done a little wild.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you on that one, Roy.
Yep.
So, Mike, do we want to put this on a future agenda? Does anyone feel strong? And we don't have to vote on this now. Could we vote on this now if we wanted to?
So you could, I would say that we don't have an application from White Barn right now for a one-day license, so that would give you time, because even though they're at the cap, they haven't submitted for an upcoming event. But this is something you would want to consider in advance of that, knowing that they do some October events.
Fine. I'm okay tabling it. If the will of the board is they want to digest, we want to digest a little more, give it some thought. There's no need to rush into it.
Mr. Chair, we don't have any other establishment that comes to us on a regular basis regards to this. In 3 years, they're the only people that have come that I'm aware of, except for James's Roadside for maybe 2 or 3 times.
And maybe the Legion 2 or 3 times
for outdoor events or something. Yeah. I mean, so this is, I mean, really, so how many weekends are there in the summer? July, August, September, October, 4, 8, 12, 16.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, if the state says 30 is the max, if you wanted to split it, give them 3 more, and be done with it, move on at the will of the board. If you wanted to digest it and talk about it at another time,
I'm open to the will of the board. I can vote on it now or I can wait. So you guys let me know what you want to do.
I'd be interested in seeing what their plans are for the fall. I mean, I think September and October, they probably would do 3 or 4 events. I would hate to discourage their business or their event by being off by 1. So I'm okay with waiting and seeing what they come to us, but I'd love for them to come, early August with those plans versus coming at the last minute and us having to kind of juggle to meet their, requests.
Yeah. Okay.
it makes good sense.
Let's do it then. Let's push it off for now. Mike, maybe you can have Amanda reach out to them proactively, just try to get a sense for where they're at for appetite for licenses from now until the end of the year. That might help us make the decision, but I think I'm pretty close to what Bill and Roy are saying. I'd be okay with like 16 licenses, go right ahead. Then anything after that, come back and talk to us. But let's table it, reach out to White Barn, get some feedback, and we'll put on another agenda item, okay? Sound good? All right. Okay, not last, but tab 9. All right, so this is something that we started doing last year, I believe, if not before, where we just want to increase, like, this board is always good about transparency. There's a big move in town about trying to get more people involved in boards and committees. So we just thought that it's a good idea to at least talk about once a year the boards and committees that are up for appointment and reappointment. So this is more just kind of like we want everyone to know. I know there's been talk if we advertise the positions on the site to let people know out there. Well, first of all, we got to let the boards and the chair people of the boards and committees know that they have members that are up for reappointment. We want to find out if those members are interested in actually getting reappointed. And then we also want to see if there's anybody else from the community that'd be interested in throwing their hat in here. So just as a civic engagement thing, I know for me, before I was an elected official, I had no idea that there were all these boards and committees in town. And I had no idea there was all these ways to get involved, right? And sometimes I got to tell you, the same people get taxed over and over again on these boards and committees because not a lot of other people either know about it or step up. So anything we can do to create engagement, I think, is positive. So I thought it was just important for Mike and Amanda to have us, at least put it on the agenda and discuss how that looks like. Now, I know, Mike, I think you mentioned that Amanda might have already proactively reached out to the chair people regarding, you know, deadlines of maybe like what, 6/11 or something. Can you walk us through that in the process?
Yes, so those individuals that are up for reappointment on boards, committees, and commissions with terms expiring June 30th, 2025, they have been distributed reappointment forms that are currently due back to the Selectman's office on June 11th.
Okay.
And I believe that there was going to be possibly a discussion of posting some opportunities on the website as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, in the spirit of civic engagement, you know, what's the board's thoughts on, you know, trying to post positions that are available so that people know, right? They know what opportunities are out there.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, not to bump ahead of anybody, but for instance, on the CPC, I'm up for possible reappointment. Robin is also. Alan Richards is out altogether. We haven't received a resignation letter, but Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong. The housing representative is going to be Andrea.
Yes.
So she needs to be appointed before the next CPC meeting and then sworn in, because we've got some things that need to be voted on. As a new select board representative too, needs to be appointed.
Right.
And then with Mary Hepburn resigning, that's going to leave a spot open on CPC also. So that's going to be the second.
So the consensus is Selectman Harrington, you know, in the spirit of civic engagement, anything we can do to boost awareness, I think is a positive thing, right? So Mike, I think that's the marching order from the board is, you know, let's go ahead and post the positions that are available.
All right. So in the spirit of that, we can post all the expiring positions on the town website with notices on social media, so that interested individuals will have an opportunity to apply in addition to incumbents.
Of course,
so if 2 or more individuals apply for appointment, the select board will have an opportunity to interview those candidates at its June 17th meeting. So that'll be the next select board meeting, which would be before the expiration date. And we will send notices to the chairs of the boards, committees, and commissions, informing them of the process so that they are aware and can also communicate this information with their members as well.
I think that's great. I think
Yeah.
that sounds reasonable.
There's a ton of expiring at in June.
I know. And I don't even know if people know this.
Right.
So yeah, that's the whole purpose behind this. We saw, you know, the massive amount of expirations, and we just want to make sure that our 11,000 residents, you know, as many people as possible have an opportunity to serve. All right. So any further discussion on that?
No, I think that's great.
Okay, no vote needed. Next on the agenda is tab number 10. We're going to go to old business. Is there any update on the MBTA communities, Mike?
So still no decision has been rendered by Judge Gilday on the town of Wrentham's motion for preliminary injunction that was heard back on April 2nd. We continue to check in regularly with town council for any updates on the litigation, but nothing to share at this time.
All right. Okay, so that's that. Does any of the other board members have anything to add on MBTA communities? Any old business? Anyone? No? Shaking head, just giving an opportunity here. Okay, tab number 11 is a public comment, as we do every meeting. Residents who wish to participate in public comment will be allotted 2 minutes to speak and must state their name and address for the record. At the start of the comment, a timer will be sent via message from Amanda Vazzapolo. It should be visible on the top of the screen, and an alarm will chime when your time is up. Anyone have any public comment from any of the residents? Anyone at all? Give you a minute or two here, or a couple seconds anyway. Okay. Oh, Leo, Mr. Immonen, welcome to the meeting. Please state your name and address for the record.
Oh, there I am. Leo Eminem, 650 East Street. I just had a question on the MBTA thing. I know there was a original deadline for the middle of July, and we're still in litigation right now. The question I want to know is how much before the deadline to have a July town meeting must we go ahead and issue a warrant? And is there enough time for the select board to take action on it? So I just want to be aware of the time frame and that you're all very much conscious of that and whether or not we'll in fact have a town meeting. But I know that's something you're all considering. So I just want to know that I'm curious. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for that question. Mike, actually, we can't engage in that,
So,
right?
so since this is public comment, what I would say is we should make that part of the MBTA update at our
Yes.
next meeting, and we can
Yes.
talk about timeline and the July 14th deadline.
All right, so can you, Amanda, do you mind making a note of that? We'll include Mr. Eminent's comment, and we want to talk about that at the next, thank you, she gave me the thumbs up. We'll talk about that at the next meeting. So thank you, Mr. Eminent, for that. All right, at this point.
That's the 17th, right?
What is it, 17th or?
17th.
Yeah, the next meeting is the 17th. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, at this time, tab 12, town manager report, Mr. King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just did want to also mention, I know it was mentioned in the announcements, but as well that in terms of Wrentham Community Electricity Program, National Grid customers should have already received notices providing information on the Wrentham Community Electricity Aggregation Program. Please note that this is an opt-out program, and if someone wishes to not participate, their opt-out reply card must be postmarked by June 26 to ensure they are not included in the automatic enrollment. For more information on the Wrentham Community Electricity Aggregation Program, please visit the dedicated webpage, wrenthamcommunityelectricity.com, or attend the hybrid informational meeting at the Fisk Public Library on June 11th at 7 p.m., where residents can learn more about the program. Just a quick update on June 2nd town meeting results. The town meeting acted on 27 articles last evening, and all passed with the exception of a citizen's petition that was moved by the petitioner to be indefinitely postponed. We have a full list of all the actions taken on the articles that has been posted to the town website and social media. Update on the Park Street Bridge. MassDOT is proceeding with reopening the Park Street Bridge at a reduced capacity. The northbound lane on Park Street approaching Main Street will be reopened to traffic with restrictions on truck traffic and other heavy vehicles. The southbound lane of Park Street coming off of Main Street will remain closed with a detour in place. District 5 of MassDOT is currently working with its contractor to procure the necessary signs and other traffic control devices to properly and safely reopen the northbound lane within the next 3 weeks. An exact date for reopening will be provided as soon as it is available. I have an update on the FY26 state budget and some state budget earmarks. So the Wrentham legislative delegation has secured earmarks in their respective FY26 House and Senate budgets. Representative Marcus Vaughn secured $25,000 for Hales Pond Dam, and Senator Rebecca Rausch secured $50,000 for furniture and technology improvements at the Fisk Public Library. The House and Senate budgets now head to conference committee, and we await to see if the proposed earmarks make it into the final FY26 state budget. And my last update is on national PFAS settlements. Wrentham has received its first PFAS settlement check in the amount of $219,000. The town has signed on to national PFAS lawsuits against both 3M and DuPont. It is estimated that the town will receive approximately $700,000 in payments through this summer. The Department of Revenue has advised that these settlement checks are general fund revenue and will close out to free cash at year end. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for our town manager before I hand the meeting over? Seeing no, Selectman Anderson, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, it's my honor. If you don't mind, I'd like to make a motion for adjournment.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Motion by Selectman Anderson, second by Selectwoman Rouse. Any further discussion? Being none, Selectwoman Rouse,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Harrington,
Harrington, yes.
Lamothe,
Lamont, yes.
Gallo, yes. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good night.